My name is Sue Davis, and I'm a member of the Nevada Women's History Project. Today we are interviewing Nancy Fennell, broker owner of Dixon Realty Company. This interview is brought to you through the generosity of the Terry Lee Wells Foundation. Today is December 8th, 2023, and we are in Reno, Nevada. Nancy, welcome. Please describe your early years before you came to Reno.
Ooh, that was quite a journey. So I grew up, my mom is the youngest of 12. My dad's from a pretty good sized family. I was born in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, but yeah, at a very young age, maybe 6 months, we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. My dad was growing a business, and we lived there until really after I went to college. After I graduated from high school, which was like a mile from my house, I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. It was one of the top textile chemistry schools in the country. And of course, North Carolina was a big textile factory. But about that time, everything began to go offshore to Vietnam and to less expensive places. So I got my undergraduate degree there, and then I got a very useful historic costume degree. And then I went on to Fashion Institute in New York City. I lived in New York City for 5 years. I got on the buyer's training program at Bloomingdale's department store, and I met my husband in Bloomingdale's department store.
Oh my. Tell a little bit about your school life.
So I think the University of Tennessee at Knoxville is such a beautiful area. It's a little greener than Reno. It is, but hilly and mountains nearby, Gatlinburg. I mean, it's just a beautiful area of the country. So the college was large, maybe not in today's standards, but when I went there a very long time ago, there were 40,000 people, 40,000 students. So it was a typical, I'm not sure I was the best student. I was very good in the things I was interested in, but I did love the whole collegiate experience. Meeting people from around the world and from different areas, and professors. I mean, who doesn't love a professor that inspires you? And I had several, so it was just a great experience. It was a big sports school. Oh. I never went to any of that. That wasn't me, but it was very exciting to be around.
What about the Fashion Institute in New York?
Well,
describe that.
After I graduated from college, I applied to the Fashion Institute in New York City. And very interesting. It's like a trade school, part of NYU. Cool. And to work at the Fashion Institute, or to be a professor there, you have to be in the industry for like 15 years. So the people that I got to study with, Calvin Klein, I mean, every designer, they all came to the Fashion Institute, and they taught for a period of time. It was remarkable. It was on 23rd Street in Chelsea, which was a colorful part of the town then, but it was a remarkable experience.
Oh, interesting. How did you meet your husband?
So my husband came into Bloomingdale. So it was the first week that I worked at Bloomingdale's department store. And they have you work on the floor to get to see the flow, and it was, and what kind of customers, and just get a sense of what it's like. My husband, Harvey Fennell, had just moved like 2 weeks before to New York City. It was Father's Day. He comes into the men's department, which of course I had selected to be at. And, I had a Southern accent. He had grown up in Kentucky and in Little Rock. And so and we just started talking. And we had friends in common. And he lived just a few blocks from me. And so we, in those days, and I think still now, you kind of go around as a tribe, those people you meet, you just hook up at dinner, who's ever around, and but that's where it started. Well, first of all, what was interesting about Harvey Fennell, who now we've been together almost 50 years, was his persistence. And because I was new at Bloomingdale's, asking for your phone number or your address was probably not the thing to do. But and he was also he was there buying a Father's Day present for his father. I mean, who doesn't love that he taken the time to do that? And, I think just that commonality of growing up in the South and being in New York City, where people thought that you were from Australia. They didn't understand your accent at all. You had to spell everything. So it was just nice not to have to explain yourself.
How long did it take before you guys got married? And how'd you end up in Reno?
So we were in New York together. He went for about 3 years. I lived there for about 5 years. And New York it was a time to be in New York City, honestly. Neither of us had much money. And of course, New York is expensive, but there's so many incredible things to do in a city like New York City. And, our friends, we'd go out at 11 o'clock at night and come home at 5 in the morning. I don't know how we did that, but it was a very exciting time to do there. But he was on a tour of duty with his company. So at the end of his tour, we had to decide where we were going to stay together. He was going to get transferred someplace. So we looked around and we decided on Nashville because it was kind of central to both of his parents were outside of Chicago at the time. Mine, of course, were still in the same house in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we decided to go to Nashville. And we had friends from, he had gone to the University of Kentucky and I'd gone to the University of Tennessee. So we had friends that had settled in Nashville, which was at that time starting to explode. So we moved to Nashville. We had a wonderful 10 years together. He was very successful in his company. There wasn't fashion like I wanted to do in Nashville at the time. So I met this outrageous, crazy, exciting person who, and we grew a company together. It was a distribution company. And if you remember, there was Service Merchandise, was a catalog showroom. It was like the early, like Walmart's, except they sold jewelry and diamonds, and they had mines in Israel. But you became, I think you had to be a member, and then things were very early Costco, yes, but a little more complicated. So over time, we grew it. We're the largest calculator distributor in the country. And we sold to like all these little businesses, college bookstores and things like that. And that's when, calculators had gone from here to here, right? So from there, we just moved into other products, and including cigars, premium cigars. But Service Merchandise on the QT purchased us, and that gave us cash to grow and expand. And we had an amazing team, and Nashville was a wonderful place. But Harvey's sister, Fiona Fennell Dixon Combs, asked us to come out and help her to decide what to do with her company. They wanted to sell it and how to help them. And because Harvey was in accounting, and how to value it and all those things. And so we came out for 4 days. And at the end of 3 days, we thought, we can always find a job. We can wait tables. We can do people's taxes. We've never lived out west. We don't have children. It would be fun to live in the West for a period of time. So we bought it and we moved out here.
And what year was that?
That was 1987. 1987.
And where did you live when you first moved out to Reno?
We bought, so Mark and Fiona, who were married at the time, lived on Lindley Way, on the side of Lindley that backs up to Virginia Lake. And it was a remarkable street. Terry Wells, David and Robin Sanford, the Carano cousins, Pat Mattioni, Al Scolari, and the Nevada Ballet, I can't remember their names. It was just a remarkable street. And Zimbalist, the violinist, owned a house there. And it was just a remarkable street. So we lived there for 3 years until a prominent doctor/developer bought the house next door and started renovating it, which took about 5 years. And our son was born February of '88. And so when the fishermen who didn't have permanent places to stay started to stay in the house next door, our 3-year-old making dear friends because they loved to take him fishing, we decided maybe it was time to move. So we sold Lindley Way and we rented, and we were going to build a house. But then my friend from Birmingham, Cheryl Taylor, who was a realtor at Dixon Realty, called me one day and said, I think you should come over and look at this house. It's not on the market yet. It's Marv and Carolyn Murphy's house. And so I said, okay. And so I went over and looked at it, and it was so much like the house I'd grown up in, and it was lush and in the middle of a beautiful forest. They had done such an amazing job. And so I called Harvey and said, I'm going to buy a house. You want to come see it? And we lived there for 30 years. Wow. And it was the perfect place for us. We just, in fact, about 45 days ago, sold it. And there was only one reason that we sold it, is because our son bought 4 acres and came to us and said, let's subdivide it and build houses next door to each other. And who gets to do that?
I know, how perfect.
Who gets to do that? So that's what we did. So, and it was just perfect. Louis Chattel's nephew bought our house, and we live next door to our son, and he has 2 children, 4 and 2. They patter over in their little bare feet every morning, and now my husband has taught them how to get in the paper and bring it to it. So it is just so special. We feel just grateful and blessed.
Tell me about your career at Dixon Realty.
Oh, well, first of all, it has been a dream job. And it is, for me, since the caveman, shelter and housing and has been so important. It's where we raise our children. It's where we build our friendships. And, it is just so important. So it was a natural place. My mom had a small brokerage in Charlotte, North Carolina. So there were just a lot of connections. But when we came out, many people ask us, by the way, where does the name Dixon Realty come? Because most people know Fiona, my sister-in-law, who started the firm in 1973, because she worked for a very male-dominated industry. And so when she got her real estate license, she worked for a very prominent firm, and she won every single real estate award, of course, because she's Fiona. And they would never give her the recognition because she really didn't need that. She was married, and she had a husband that would take care of her. And so she was like, well, the heck with this. So she went out and started her own firm. And so it was Dixon Realty. And that was her. She was married to Chuck Dixon. They had moved out here from Indiana, and he ran the mental health, I think, for the state of Nevada at that time. So they were wonderful. And of course, they had what they saw their firm, what their firm stood for. We had 54 agents, I think, when we bought the firm, and we have we've just been so blessed. Well, first of all, we had developers like Alan Means and Sam Jasic, who really created Collin Ranch and Lake Ridge Shores and Lake Ridge, and we got to represent those. And so that really, just over the years, our company grew. But it's about the people that you affiliate with. You know, it is, we have such a smart, young, ambitious, but who believe in the same things that we believe in. About your reputation, about integrity, and about being incredibly knowledgeable about real estate. And so they are slowly taking over the company. I'm picking and choosing what I like to do, but you know, people think, oh, CEO. It's, you just surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and share that vision, have that vision, and just turn them loose, and they will get it done. So it's been so much fun. So it's now, we're going on our, well, we're 50 years old this year. I've been there 36. And what was helpful is, first of all, my husband, who was a partner with Pete Mork, he was the back office. And very few small firms have that kind of financial oversight. And we brought in 2 junior partners at the time, one who's still my partner, Jeff Giesler, and he was the ultimate dirt guy. So whenever we would be working on developments like Collin Ranch or Wingfield Springs or Saddlehorn or Montreux or any of those, he was just excellent to work with. And so it's been a team effort, and we were very lucky to be able to do that.
Sounds interesting. As the president of a company, what advice would you give to young professionals who want to lead their own company?
So most of us, and I think that we don't start off knowing, we may start off knowing what we think we want to do, but life has a way of opening up new opportunities, and sometimes we diverge on, I never thought I would own a real estate company or be a realtor or do this, but life opened those possibilities up, and so I had that. So finding what you're good at and what you love. So my advice would be, no matter what job you take, learn it, be the best at it. Be the best at it. Know it from the bottom to the top, because you never know. And this is what has happened to me. The experiences that I had in the fashion or the electronics business, those are lessons that have been, I didn't know why I learned them, but now they've been helpful. And so just take those experiences and be prepared. You owning your own company is, you're everything from the founder to the janitor. And just be prepared for that. Surround yourself with great people. That's all.
So your businesses have survived during good times and bad times in the housing market. What have been your keys to success to keep the business going?
Smart people, number one. Live frugally, because when you're, there were times when, the bank, and remember, we had community banks at that time. We knew our bankers. We could call and talk to our bankers. So, and the 07 through 11, our banks were very good to us. We had expanded around the lake. We had to make a really hard decision. We had to cut off the arm to save the body, which means we had to sell our Lake Tahoe properties because we were renting those. And, they were huge properties, and Lake Tahoe, it was even expensive then. But knowing that we'd go back, but it was the right decision. And people. And, we never laid off a single person. I was writing checks out of my personal checkbook to make payroll. You got to be prepared for that. So don't have a lot of debt. We are very conservative. You know, having the pleasure. I mean, nothing is more exciting or more fulfilling than helping someone else by their dream home. And really, what they think they want sometimes is not what they end up with. But that's our job as real estate professionals, to really ask them and to help guide them and to show them things that maybe they don't want, and to pick up clues of things that they can't even articulate themselves, because most people only buy a few houses in their lifetime. And so we help people, thousands of people every year buy and sell properties. So being able to listen, to ask questions, to have them answer, and then to weave together something that they can't even articulate, until you help them find the perfect place for them to live. So I'd like to expand. I talk about smart people and being and surrounding yourself with smart people, but there are all kinds of smart people. I look for, there's so many duties. There's the back office, there's the front office, there's the visionary, there's the graphic part, there's the creative part. And so I look for people who are smarter in specific skill sets, smarter than we are. And that has worked out really, really well. And so, a lot of our job is about having goals, having expectations, and having a vision of who we want to be as our company, which a big part is, it's not just about our company. We've always really kept our eye out, what's a bigger purpose than just, not that just selling houses isn't hugely important, but how do we help our community be the best place it can be? And so that has always been really, really one of our core. We have like 4 core values, and that is very specifically one of them. And so working with people not who are better than you in certain skill sets, number one, but also who share and who drive and who are ambitious to accomplish those goals, and who believe in giving back, is really, really important to us.
You mentioned that one of your goals is to give back to your community. In what ways have you given back to your community?
There are we try to give. You can't give to everyone, right? You'd be a non-for-profit yourself. But I think we look for projects and we look for organizations that we can have a long-term relationship with. My passion, I've been on the board of the museum since 1995. I've been chair twice.
Which museum?
The Nevada Museum of Art, the only accredited museum in the entire state of Nevada. And so I've been on that board since 1995. And to help grow and capital campaigns, we were a 16,000 square foot former title company office on Liberty, which we tore down, and we did a capital campaign, and we built a 55,000 square foot building that exists now. And now we're in our second capital campaign, where we're adding 55,000 more square feet. So the museum is very near and dear to my heart. But the first thing that I got involved in was the Nevada Women's Fund when I moved here. Fiona was one of the founding members. Fritzie Erickson was such, and Lynn Atchison still to this day, were important female mentors to me, and so kind and so helpful. And you need people who say, oh no, don't do that. That's not a good idea. who can warn you. And so the Women's Fund, still some of my closest friends I formed from that board. We still, 36 years later, are very involved with the Women's Fund. One of the things, I did see that there was a different way to raise money and help more organizations. And so I was on the founding board for the Community Foundation of Northern Nevada. And now I think they manage about $160 million. And I mean, it's successful beyond. And so we have 75 staff and 350 agents, and it may be their church, it may be their softball team. Everyone has something that they give back to. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's connections. So, sometimes it's resources, things that our graphic artists could help here or do that. So, but it takes all of us. As someone once said, it takes a village, and it really does.
Do you or have you received pushback in business dealings because you're a woman? And if so, how did you deal with that? And how would you recommend other women dealing with it?
One thing that I think about in terms of women entering the workforce, which was what was happening more and more in my day. We were further along. My sister, who's 10 years older, certainly that was a different world, quite honestly. But in the real estate world, what I noticed is that many women that I looked up to had been married. They had devoted their life to their family. They had raised the children, and then they had gotten divorced. Now, they ran a company better than anybody because they took care of everything. And so they were natural to go into real estate. And at that time, real estate was a male-dominated industry. What women brought to was the ability to listen, to ask the right questions, to be more gracious, and honestly, just more fun and more detail-oriented, because you have to do it all as a realtor, and women were wildly successful. And so when I came, we had a few, what I used to tease, token males, but it was really females who ran the show. And Peg Murphy, Glory Kilt, some of them still work for us 40 years later. It is really, but they were at the top of the game. So now there's probably a little different mix than there was then. It's probably 60-40, but it's a wonderful career, particularly for an entrepreneurial spirit. And women just have a different perspective. We grew up in that hierarchical world, of corporate America. And women just have, it is, especially after COVID, especially with this generation, it is the human touch. It is you're smart. We talked about smart people. It's our job to figure out what they really want to do and what they're going to be good at doing. Everybody doesn't just fall into the job description that you need done. So meshing those all together, people need to be happy to come to work, not live their work forever, and have a life.
What have I not asked you that you feel is very important?
I think I'm at an age, and as I mentioned, my family is taking over the firm. My husband's already retired. I am not ready to retire. I'm ready to pick and choose the things that I think that I can bring to the table without getting into the way, because at some point they need to own it. It needs to be theirs, and they're much too dear to say, look, that's an old idea. Time has moved on. And so I need to be respectful of what they want to do and how they are going to grow the company and see it. And so where do I fit in? Where can I contribute? So I'm thinking about what's the fourth thing that I want to do, probably the last. And a lot of that is about the community and about being involved there. So I think that's something that everyone, male or female, goes through. And really, there's so many women in my life that are still so relevant at 92 or And, you know, my Aunt Mildred was 103 and a half, lived on her own on this little island off the coast of North Carolina. It's those women who, she shouldn't have been driving though, but it is, that, and were, they contributed in their spirit and their experience, and you know, they remained relevant, and I think that's what keeps us fulfilled. I don't want to get this far and be unhappy at the end.
Right, I agree.
So the question is, what do I want to do after I'm no longer CEO of Dixon Realty? Or so again, I will pick and choose the things at the company where I can be helpful without getting in the way, and helping to grow young people in this profession is something I'd love to do. But where I really think that I will spend my time, of course, we plan, God laughs, you know, things change. But I think that, first of all, I'll be walking my grandsons to elementary school at Roy Gom, I hope. And so I see helping raise them on a more daily basis, perhaps helpful, and would be something that I'd be thrilled to do. But there's so many things about our community that, whether it's the community foundation or whether it's the university or whether it's the museum, you know, and I want to remain a lifelong learner. You know, I've been for 12 years a member of a study group where we started before the written word, and we have read all the classics with a tutor from St. John's who comes up here and sit around one of our dining room table. But I just want to be involved in life and help where I can help. Harvey and I are both, he was a Episcopal, he was a preacher's kid. His father was a worker priest. He also had a job, but we're very involved in Trinity Cathedral, and we have a new bishop who has moved to, who chooses to live in Reno rather than Sin City, or as I tell her, where all the sinners live. And so we ran the capital campaign for redoing the sanctuary. And so there are tasks there that we'd like to have a new fellowship hall. And so there are lots of places that I think that I see Harvey and I doing this together, I think. So, you know, and who knows what comes up. When I think about my perfect world vision of the Reno Sparks or Northern Nevada area, I think about what it takes from a community standpoint, a community will. We could solve homelessness at this time. It's solvable. We are doing remarkable things between the Hopes and the village at Sage. We are doing things that are making national attention. I would have no one homeless and no one hungry. And I think start there, and then you know, think STEAM rather than STEM, in terms of the sciences. All the disciplines are important, but the humanities and art, to me, that is the history, the visual history of our communities. And so I would just have us have a more united community to solve some of the bigger problems.
Thank you, Nancy, so much for giving us this oral interview. We very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I am honored to be asked. I know that there are many, many amazing women in our community that you have interviewed and that you still have to interview. So I hope that people know that you need grants and things to keep going and doing this. And so I hope that whoever sees this might write a small check for you.